Thank you for that, Rochelle. I truly appreciate you reaching out to me several years ago, because we are, and when people think of veterans, you don't think of women, right? And I'm sure all of you, when you think of veteran, you think of an old guy in a ball cap, and you just saw women veterans that were up here, and for her to reach out directly to want to support us, that was greatly appreciated. And here we are. I've collaborated on your book and everything else. So truly, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And I look forward to what we're going to continue to do together. There we go. There we go. Awesome. And to Bonita, to Martine, to Marion, they're all members of Women Veterans Alliance, which I will share with you. Martine, I've known you from almost the beginning of when I started, which again, I'll share. So I talk about many different things. And I'm going to share a little bit about my journey of career reinvention and how I recreated myself. And I think we all kind of go through some type of, whether it's your transition. A lot of times we talk about that in the military when our military members transition out of the military. But we all transition, right? And I call them different chapters in our book. And there's different stepping stones that lead us to where we are today. So the stepping stone that led me here today was when I got laid off back in 2009, back when the economy crashed. So prior to that, of course, being in the military, also being a military wife, I've been married to a Marine for 28 years, and that's a whole other topic. So with that, got into sales, entrepreneurship, and then was climbing the corporate ladder like many other women, trying to break that glass ceiling and, eventually becoming vice president to president kind of thing. But then 2009 happened. So prior to that, 2008, my husband and I and my daughter, we were living in Southern California, and my husband was getting ready to retire after 21 years in the Marine Corps. And my company at the time offered me an opportunity to manage the Oracle account. They had just gotten Oracle, and I said, I hope it's not in the Bay Area. I grew up in the Bay Area. I wasn't looking to come back to the Bay Area. No offense for all y'all that are here in the Bay Area. I just didn't want to come back. So no, it's up near Sacramento. I'm like, great. So moved us up, put us in corporate housing. When you first start a job, you just kind of just focused on the job. I wasn't developing my community and all that. And thankfully my mom was there to help with my daughter, because my husband was still transitioning out of the military. Now 2009 happens, and guess what happens? I get that call into the office, and they could have probably called me from home too. And I probably should have known something was up when, the head of HR comes from Atlanta, Georgia. And actually, they came from Atlanta, Georgia to give me my papers, which they gave me a nice severance package. So that was appreciative. But let me tell you, best thing could ever happen to me, because had that day not happened, I wouldn't be standing here. Because again, my focus was just corporate America, just keep doing what I got to do kind of thing. So I come from human resources and recruiting. And I thought, I'm going to find a job easy. I'm a recruiter. I know human resources. Dry. I don't know if anybody were affected by 2008, 2009, 2010, but it was dry out there. And of course, living in the Sacramento area, most jobs are government jobs. So I'm like, okay, well, I got to figure this out, right? Figure this out, what I'm going to do. But what happened to me, and I didn't realize that at the time, and it took a long time for me to share that because I felt ashamed, is I went through a grieving process. Depression, it was depression, but it was grieving. And like, why do I feel this way? So what would happen is I would take my daughter to school, and I'd come back at home and I'd go to bed and I'd sleep all day till I picked her up. Like, why? Am I exhausted? Probably a little bit. But what I realized after, going to a therapist and working through all that is you're grieving the loss of your identity. Because we think of grief, somebody has to die. But I lost who I was. right? Because we all most of the time we identify ourselves with a job title. We're not a job title. We're so much more than a job title. But again, me in corporate America, that job title, right? That job title got me into when I had to talk to, other managers or go into sales talks or other things. That was my title. So here I am without that title, without that purpose of what I was doing. So I had to go through this of just this whole depression piece. And thankfully, my husband didn't come home. He came home on the weekends because, again, he was still transitioning. So he didn't know. He didn't know till I told him, like months later, about what was happening with me. And then I had to pick it up, and I had to do something, right? Because if you've ever been on unemployment, it's not a lot of money. I mean, it's nothing you people can live off unless you have something. So we're steadily declining, right? My income is pretty much done. My severance package is almost out, right? So we're still trying to maintain our lifestyle, which isn't like the rich and famous lifestyle. It's just our lifestyle of our mortgage, that kind of thing. And I remember my husband coming home and he's like, "Why can't you find a job?" He didn't mean to be mean, but it felt like find a job. But there wasn't nothing out there. I was truly trying to find my next opportunity. But right, so if you believe in God, he has a plan, right? And we always want to know, like, what's the plan? Because he had the plan for me. I didn't know what that was. I had to go down here to build myself back up with that. So during 2010, I'm trying to find a job. It's like, and we're trying to refinance our house. They did not let anybody refinance the house. No, they're like, you have too much debt, but that's why I needed to refinance so I could stay in my house. We're still there, but it took a lot. I mean, we maxed out credit cards to pay groceries. I mean, it was just one of those times where you have nothing, right? I had emptied my 401k all through 2010 just to survive there. So I was looking and I saw an article in the newspaper, believe it or not, Sacramento Bee, and they had an article about the Employment Development Department in California was having workshops for people in managerial positions. I'm like, hey, well, I'm gonna go check that out. Even though I didn't feel like I was a manager, I was a manager, but I was still young, right? So you think, okay, okay, I'm gonna go and do this. So we met, and they had, it's a great networking opportunity, right? It's so important for us to network. I'm very much a networker, had that connectivity, and I was meeting people. And one of the workshops one day, and it was facilitated, so it was PowerPoint presentation. It was how to find a job using LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook. I'm like, I know how to use LinkedIn. I was an early adopter of LinkedIn, being a recruiter, and so they were teaching it. So what I did, Miss Entrepreneur wanted to do things, I invited people to my home that were from the job seekers group, and I started teaching LinkedIn classes at my dining room table. So this is 2010. I'm doing it for free, right? Because I'm what I call now, I'm honing my craft, right? You got to keep doing it. You can do it for free, and that's a lot of times. I'm sure a lot of you know, if you come and speak, a lot of times they're not going to pay you $5,000, $10,000 right off the bat. You got to kind of hone that or pay you to come to your workshop. So I started to do that, and it just kept developing. And then all of a sudden, now the economy started to pick back up. I'm still on unemployment. I'm going to start charging for my workshops. So then you do the price point. Okay, I'll start at $39. Then I'll do $49. And people started to come little by little. And just so happens, how many of you are on LinkedIn? All right, well, definitely connect with me, Melissa A. Washington. Connect on LinkedIn, please do that. So LinkedIn had sent me a coupon to advertise my business. So I advertised my workshops, and just so happens the director of sales effectiveness at LinkedIn lived not too far from me up near Sacramento. And he said, hey, who are you? You're doing these LinkedIn. And so I said, hey, let's get together at Starbucks. Got together with him early 2011. June comes around, I follow up with him. And also too, when we talk about networking, other things, it's all about building relationships, right? It's that whole, and what does building relationships look like? So with him, so I followed up and say, hey, Nate, how you doing? He says, oh, I'm so glad you called. He said, would you be interested in working at LinkedIn? Heck yeah. So it wasn't even in a job that I was doing. He says, yeah, I need some help with somebody to help us get to help with finding hotels and getting our sales training set up. Absolutely. Why was this a cool opportunity? One, they never posted the job. So it's all about who I knew. He said, well, it's just a temp position. LinkedIn's growing so fast. We're just bringing all these contractors on at one time. It's going to be just 3 months. Well, 3 months turned into 4 years. And I live in Sacramento. LinkedIn is in Silicon Valley. They paid me hourly Bay Area rates as a contractor. Fantastic. Why do I share that? Not because yes, it's a cool story, but a lot of times we may turn our nose up at a temp or contract opportunity. So here, 3 months, and I traveled the world with LinkedIn. And they never asked me for a resume, all because it's who knew. And if they were asking me to ask for my resume, I wouldn't have qualified for that job based on my resume. But I had the skills, right? I knew I got to do that. So fantastic opportunity with LinkedIn. I was still doing my LinkedIn training because at that time, LinkedIn didn't have that model where they came out to do the trainings and speak. So I was building that. Also, too, when I was looking for work, I started a job seekers group. And one of the things the job seekers would ask, like, what do I need to do to find a job? I said, okay, well, of course, your resume, business cards. And then they're like, what about this link thing, this linky thing, right? Right, because nobody knew what LinkedIn was at this time, because this is 12 years ago. I'm like, well, do that. So I created this checklist. So the checklist ended up turning into a book that I published in 2014 called Get Back to Work. And that's Appendix A is that checklist. So, and I don't like to write. Even though now I've got 2 books, working on 3rd book, but it's opportunity to be able to share. So if anybody's ever thinking about a book, it's your opportunity to share, right? To share your wisdom, to get that out there, to share all this. So I wrote the book, Get Back to Work, and it's like this. I didn't want it like this because when you're looking for work, you don't want to be going through all that stuff. You want actionable items that you can do. So that's why I created Get Back to Work. So I launched that in 2014. And during that time, too, as I was looking at an opportunity to network in a professional setting with other women veterans. I'm not interested in the traditional legacy groups for many reasons. A lot of those, and I'll tell them directly, I'm not interested in just sitting around with a bunch of old guys and sometimes feeling or being demeaned, whether it's intentional or not intentional, and that's just not my thing. So I got about 20 women together up at El Chorritos in Sacramento in January 2015, which was just a hobby. It just started as a monthly, let's get together. We'll find a restaurant, I'll bring a speaker. Now we're one of the fastest growing nationwide women veteran professional organizations out there. Yes. It was a hobby, and that's what I tell people. It wasn't something I planned on doing full time. It wasn't something I was going to create a business. I just wanted the opportunity to have community and to be able to network with other women who have served our country. I didn't know that there was a need at the beginning. Then I realized, oh my gosh, there is a need for our women to have that connectivity with each other. There is still such a gap when it comes to our women even identifying themselves as veterans. Also to women utilizing their resources out there. So to be able to fill that gap, to make that dent, to where we don't have to read statistics about women being homeless or the high suicide numbers among women veterans. If we can do other things to help prevent that, and I strongly believe what I'm doing is helping prevent that, if we can provide them the resources before these things happen and provide it in a way where women can have fun, they can network and be together. And as some of these ladies can share here too, it's just an opportunity. And many women will say, I feel like I can take my mask off. So imagine a lot of these women veterans who have served our country, that they sometimes have to go in a room and they can't, or they don't feel like they can share really about them. But when women veterans get together, let me tell you, you take it all off. And you just laugh and you cry, and it doesn't matter what branch of service you're in. We take jabs at the Air Force. We just take jabs in, but it's all in fun. It's in good spirit because we need that. Sometimes it's a healing process for women. Yes, does rape happen? Yes. Does sexual harassment happen? Yes. Also to post-traumatic stress, TBI, traumatic brain injury. Guess what? Women, it's not just men, it's also women that have traumatic brain injury. But I'll tell you some cool things about women veterans. If you look at us, we are the most educated compared to our male counterparts. We utilize our education benefits more. You will find more women veterans that have their bachelor's, master's, and PhDs. because we're smart. And I love to, yes, and I love to share that, right? Because we are. I mean, if you look at women, granted, there's all these other things too, but most women and men too, you'll find that they continue to serve their country, however that is. It could be in the veteran space, or just could be just in the community, or they might work at other positions where they can continue to serve. So with that too, I have a Women Veterans Lions Trust I started, and then I also have Women Veterans Giving, which is our nonprofit partner. And I started that for a couple reasons. One, when it comes, there is such a gap in access to capital for women. So if any entrepreneurs in here, you know that there's still that. It's like we need access to capital. So I created a nonprofit to have a yearly small business award that we give out, and it's a grant, it's money. So we've given over $15,000 to date to women veteran entrepreneurs to help her start or expand her business. We continue to do that, and the money that Rochelle donated 2-3 years ago actually helped us with that year. So thank you for that. Yes. So it's opportunity to empowerment, right? And money can help. We've had one of our women, she actually now has a brick and mortar store in Manteca, which is not too far from here. So it gives up people opportunity. Another woman was able to hire. So it just that infusion of cash, right? And some of you entrepreneurs know, it's like, hey, if I just had like $1,000 or $500, right? I could do a Facebook boost, or I can do a marketing or something that can impact my business. And there's they don't have to pay it back. We're giving it to them. So that's what we do with Women Veterans Giving. Also, too, I wanted to give opportunity because we need more women on boards, right? We know that that's still there. So this gives opportunity for women veterans to serve on a board and get that experience there. And I stepped out on an edge. I launched a magazine, Women Veterans California, this year. I just was in Texas last month and launched Women Veterans Texas. My only publishing experience was in books, but not in magazines. So let me tell you, it's been a interesting ride with that. But again, having the opportunity to be able to reach more women veterans. And with that too, so one of the things, we've got Veterans Day coming up next Friday. So please all can remember that women also serve in the military. So if you do see a woman and she happens to have an Army t-shirt on, quite possibly it could be her t-shirt, not her husband's t-shirt. Right. And that's something that we need to continue to do. And like Rochelle said too, is you don't see women on, very rarely you'll see women on TV or in ads. It's primarily men. Or if you do see women, they're the spouse, not the woman. There's approximately 2 million of us, and our population is growing year over year with that. So we need, as a community, we need all of you to be able to support our military community. All of our men and women, we volunteer. It's something we weren't drafted, we volunteered to serve. So with that being too, is just having that support from our community. We love thank you for our service, but also too, you can always ask, how are you doing? Are there things, they may need some assistance, some help, but there can be more than just the free bloomin' onion on Veterans Day at Outback. Right. So that's the thing too. I love, Veterans Day, Veterans Month. I do a lot of speaking throughout this month, which I'll be quite busy doing that. But I wake up every morning to serve women veterans 365 days a year. However I can help her, because let me tell you, and we could all agree with this, when you help her family. Yes. Right? Yes. So if we can help her, right? So if you look at women veterans, we're all just like you. We all have the same things. We all have the same, we're not built like men. So we still have challenges as that when it comes to women in the military. There's still a challenge with the uniforms, believe it or not, not even being built for women. I mean, can you believe that? It's 2022 and there's still challenges when it comes to that. Then you have the women that are out of the military. We still have challenges when it comes to healthcare. If we need to access the healthcare, we need to make sure that things are equipped and built for us. So we have all the different complexities of being a woman, but we also have the complexities of serving in the military. So we have there's something extra onto that if you look all of that women as a pie. So it's like, how can we help as a community to support these other women when it comes to those things as well? So if you are a business owner, you have no people, look out to hire women veterans. Does anybody know any women veterans in here? Please send our give them just, if they Google Women Veterans Alliance, I 100% guarantee we're going to pop up. You can even Google my name. Get them connected. That's how you can help her. If you can get her connected to the tribe, yes, and I do have my cards on the table. To please, again, just feel free to share our information. That is probably one of the best things you can do, is to share our information. I would love for my organization to be a household name out there, and eventually, hopefully we will be, because we need you to be able to help all of us. So my journey has not ended. I just continue to do what I do, and I truly love what I do. There's, of course, many obstacles. I think, yes, because I'm a woman in a male-dominated area, and I'm doing something that's not traditional in the veteran space, which I love that, but then there becomes some pushback, because you want them to do, it wants to be done this way, but what I'm doing is working, because it's been 7 years and I'm still here, and I'm still empowering our women veterans. So I don't know how much time I have left. I'm sure I'm getting close to it, because yes, yeah, right. I could keep going and going. And so again, I appreciate the opportunity. And one of the things too is, when you come to speak at other things, and I'll admit it, you feel that that imposter syndrome, right? I feel it. People think Melissa's got her shit together, but I'm telling you, I feel that too. Even listening to the speakers earlier, I'm like, dang, am I going to be good enough, or people are going to? You start comparing ourselves, and I do that. It's just a natural thing that I do, and I'm sure we all do it. But how do we overcome that? You just got to get on up there and do it, right? So I thank you all for doing what you do, and don't let that imposter syndrome take over, because it's real. That struggle is real. It's real. So thank you so much, Rochelle. I thank you, and thank you for honoring women veterans. This is awesome.